All right, let's continue our conversation, Oscar, about the properties in your area. So if you wanted to invest locally, you were telling me that your average 2-bed, 1-bath is here, right? It's anywhere between $475,000 and $600,000. And then you were saying that to rent that same property, right, would be about $2,000 a month. So right off the bat, the thing that like I'm feeling is that it fails the 1% rule. So the 1% rule, for those watching, for those who don't know, for Oscar, if you don't know, right? If you bought the property for $475,000, the 1% rule would say that the rent should be $4,750, which it is not, right? So that's the 1% rule. 1% of your all in or your purchase or whatever, all in 475. You're at 2,000. You're half that. You're the 0.5% rule or whatever. So from that gut reaction, it fails that. Now, when we're doing our analysis, what you got to do is you got to figure out, okay, let's say that the rent is $2,000 a month. Then you
Right.
have to subtract your expenses. So the 1% rule is just a rule of thumb. It's not like end all be all, right? So let's say you have to subtract your expenses and then you have to subtract your debt. Okay, so I'm going to put debt. All right, so you got 2,000 minus the expenses minus your debt. And then that is going to be your cash flow. And so you're buying these properties because you want a cash flow, because you've expressed to me that you would like to leave your 9 to 5, you would like rental income, you would like passive income, you would like to just be able to not have to go to work at 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. and drive a truck for the rest of your life, which is
Right.
what's going on right now. So does rental properties work for you? Is the cash flow going to be enough for you? And as of right now, from that rule of thumb, the answer is no, but it doesn't mean that all is lost. So let's look at it. Okay, so first you have to figure out the expenses. So the question is, what expenses that do you have to factor in? You got your taxes, you got your insurance, and then you got your maintenance, and then you have management. Some people are like, oh, I manage it in-house so that there's no cost, but you want to factor that in, right? So you got taxes,
Right.
insurance, maintenance, management, utilities, if you have to pay for anything. So sometimes people pay for water and then the tenant pays for electric and gas or something like that. I don't know. You might have them pay all of the utilities. That's up to you. And then you might have something like, I don't know, lawn care or trash removal or anything like that, right? So you just have to factor it in. I don't know exactly what, but for the most part, you got taxes, insurance, maintenance, management, utilities for the expenses, right? So you add all that up. And then there's your debt component. That's probably where you're going to get killed. So your expenses, when you add it all up, I don't know what the taxes are in your area. So for a property that's $475,000, what's the taxes per year usually, you think?
Oh, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
Um,
So it could range. It could be like in Philadelphia, interestingly enough, there are some properties where the taxes are like $400 a year, $600 a year, and then there's other properties where it's like $8,000 a year, right? And so
right.
it's all over the place.
Right.
So I have no idea what your taxes are, and then I don't know what your insurance is. I don't know if there's natural disasters that cause your insurance to be high, or there's nothing; it's completely dry, or there's tornadoes,
Yeah.
hurricanes. I have no idea, right? So you got to figure out what your taxes and insurance are. Your maintenance is typically like a ratio of your income. So a lot of times people go like 5% of the rent, $2,000. So what's that, $100, right? But if you look at it, $100, is that enough to squirrel away per month for future maintenance costs? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. So take a look at it from that point of view. And then management also is another ratio of your income. Sometimes it's 5%, sometimes it's 7%, sometimes it's 10%. So if it's 10% of the rent, then the management cost is $200 a month, right? That's how you factor it. And then utilities are what they are. And then like your lawn and your trash, and then maybe even HOA fee. So that's another thing that you got to factor in. I don't know if you have an
Mm.
HOA wherever you're looking, but those are all of
Yeah.
the expenses that you have to put in to subtract from your 2,000. So
Right.
if all of this, right, let's say all of this is $900 a month. So if it's $900 a month, and if we get rid of all this right here, right? If all that's $900 a month, then your net operating income, which is your income minus expenses, is 1,100, right? And if you bought the property all cash, you'd be cash flowing $1,100 a month. But where you get in trouble is when you throw the debt in there, right? And so the debt, let's say you borrowed $400,000. So let's see what that is. $400,000 today at, let's say 7% over 30 years. That is a principal and interest payment of 2,661, right?
Mm.
And so as you see, we're negative $1,500,
Yeah.
right? Negative. So it doesn't work from this normal kind of whatever, right? So now, how could you potentially do this? One way, which is, I don't want to say it's a long shot because I don't want to give it any title. I don't want to take away your dreams, right? But it's that this component of it, the debt part, maybe there's a seller finance component where you tell the seller, hey, I'm willing to give you $500 a month, right? Let's say the seller wanted to sell their property for $475 and they owned it free and clear. Okay, they owned it free and clear. And they're an older couple and they don't really need a whole bunch of money. And you're just like, look, I'll put down $20,000, right? Which means I still owe you what's it, 455,000, right? I still owe you 455,000, and I will give you $500 a month, okay? And I will buy your property as is, no repairs, no real estate agent, no commissions paid, no nothing. I will make it the easiest transaction in the world, and I'll give you 20,000 up front, and I'll pay you $500 a month, and then I will pay you 455 at the end. And I will pay you this 5,000 or $500 a month for the next 5 years. So 60 months. Okay. So we got 60 months times $500 equals $30,000. Okay. So what you're essentially doing is you're paying them $505,000, or no, 500 and yeah, I was right. $505,000 because 475 was your sale price.
Right.
Plus the 30,000, you're essentially paying them an interest. You're paying them 500 plus the 60. So at the end of the 5 years, you're going to pay them 455. Throughout your journey with them, you've paid them 30,000, and on day one, you paid them 20. Right? So you see that?
Yeah.
So 20,000 up front, and then 30,000 throughout your journey with them, and then 455 at the end. So they're selling their property for 505, and they didn't have to pay for a real estate agent. They didn't have 1,000 people walking through their house. There was no commission paid, right? There's no, and then also you took it as is. You bought it as is. So now, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Because from this, your debt is not that, your debt is actually $500. Okay. So now, because your debt is $500, that means your cash flow is 600. But that's the small game. Okay. So 600 is significant. No doubt about it. I'll take nothing away from the 600 cash flow per month. That is significant. But why you're really doing it is because you have an inkling for some reason that this property that's $475,000 is going to rocket ship to $600,000. So at the end of year 5, you sell it for 600, you only have to pay back 455. So you've made the difference of $145,000. Right? And so I tell people that when it comes to real estate investing, you got your cash flow, you got your appreciation, you got your principal pay down. In this case, it's interest only, so we don't have that. Principal pay down. 4, you got your tax benefits. And then 5, you have your discount. So These are the 5 ways that you make money from a buy and hold property. Okay. So a buy and hold property, you got these 5 ways to make money. You're betting on the appreciation where the property is going to go to $600,000 or more or whatever, right? And you have good feeling because all of the fundamentals show that where you are, the population growth is 5% year after year after year. All of these industries are moving into town. Things are really coming together. The school district is really good, blah, 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 blah. And so you're like, dude, though 475 is high for a 2-bed, 1-bath, it is going to be cheap in the sense that in 5 years for the city planners, what they're going to be developing, these houses are going to be going 600 or more easily. Now, I will caveat, I do not like playing the appreciation game because that's crystal balling. We don't know. We
Right.
don't know for sure. But there are things that you could maybe do that will allow you to like maybe kind of call it. We don't have principal pay down because that $500 a month is interest only. We do have tax benefits. So the tax benefits that you get from this property can offset some of your income. And then if you are a real estate professional, that's a tax status, you get to write it off against your job, your W-2 or your job's income. You can take your real estate and write off the depreciation against your actual active income, which is pretty cool. Cash flow, as we mentioned, you would be making $600 a month, which is again nothing to sneeze at. That pays for a lot of stuff, right? And then
Right.
the discount. When you bought it for $475 today, maybe it's worth $475. So maybe you got the discount, maybe not. Maybe though it was worth $500. So maybe you got a little discount, right? And so you're getting a little discount. Maybe you bought it for $475, it's worth $500. So for all of these, this is what we're looking for. The big one that we're aiming for here is appreciation. Now, let's go deeper into the appreciation model. So right now, you got a 2-1 going for 475. So one way that people have made money in areas like this is by simply forcing the appreciation, right? And so let's say you added a second floor and you turn this from a 2-1 into a 4-3, right? A 4-3 in your area, maybe that goes for 700, right? It's a 2-story 4-3 goes for 700K. And the cost to do the addition was 125. So you're all in here for 600 and the value is at 700 as an example, The other thing that people do is depending on the square footage, maybe they allow you to do the ADU or the junior ADU. ADU and junior ADU. An ADU is an accessible dwelling unit. Okay, so let's say this is your property. An ADU, a regular ADU, is where you build a little property on your land. Okay, so that's an ADU. By having an ADU on your property, and maybe again it costs $125 to build that ADU, right? It's $125,000 to build the ADU, but now your property as a whole is worth $800,000, right? That's one way. A junior ADU is where you section off some of the square footage within your house and you build, it's almost like a in-law suite or a second unit. It's essentially kind of like turning your property from a single family into a duplex, if you will, right? They call that a
Right.
junior ADU. So again, that conversion might cost you $50,000, right? It's not a new structure. You're just framing out a little piece inside. And so instead of $800,000, maybe it's $750 or whatever, right? Or even less, but it still works. Like, let's say it's 700, but this was only $50,000. So you're all in for what's that? 525. So you're all in for 525 because 475 plus 50, 525, but the thing could be worth 700, right? And so you add value by forcing appreciation by making changes. So either you add a second story, making the house much larger, or you add a separate building, or you do the junior ADU. And then there's even one more where they let you build like a duplex on your land as well. So now it's two buildings. It's like, and maybe you could do all three. You got an ADU, but it's a duplex. So that's like a SB9 or something like that. And then you got a junior ADU, and it's crazy, right? And then well, the sky's the limit. So let's build a second story on this one, right? So you
Right.
could, if the name of the game here, what I'm showing you, it's called have a good zoning attorney. Find a zoning attorney in your area who knows the area. Ask your zoning attorney, hey, have people come to you and successfully added a second story? Have people come to you and successfully added an ADU or a junior ADU or an SB9? I think it's called an SB9, right? SB9. So it's essentially like a duplex or something, like an additional structure that is multiple units. Okay. Has anybody done any of this? Okay. So this is a cool play. And what makes it an even cooler play is if this first floor unit, this one right here, the main house, if that one's trash and you get to buy it for $275. You're going to be renovating and doing all this stuff anyway. Why buy a nice house when you can buy a junker and make the floor plan as is and not waste money by buying it at full retail and then having to rip it out and redo it, right? It'll drastically reduce your rehab cost. So again, this is called play the zoning game. It's not let me just buy a rental property and cash flow it, right? It's a whole different thing. So this is let's be the best zoning player that nobody's ever seen, right? And so there's that. Another thing that you could potentially do is look for houses on uniquely large plots, right? So maybe this is a plot, maybe this is like 2 acres, right? This is a 2-acre plot and you got a house on it and it's got all this backyard. And you're like, oh, the city says that houses only need to be on 1 acre, 1 acre at a time, right? It doesn't need to be on this 2-acre. So you can subdivide it and then you can sell this land for a developer. A developer might say like, oh, I get to build a house and sell it for 600,000. And it's only going to cost me $200,000 to build the house. If I buy the land for $200,000, I'm all in for 400. I'm all in for 400, right? That's what the developer's saying. I can sell it for 600. I buy the land for 200. I build the houses for 200. I sell, I'm all in for 400. I sell for 6. Maybe you bought this whole entire thing. Maybe you bought that for 500 minus 200. So all of a sudden, this here, you're all in for 300,000. But as we know, these houses go for 475 to 600. So maybe this one is worth 475. Your cost basis is 300 because you sectioned off this land and sold it for 200. All right. So as I said to you before I started the recording, I'm going to talk a lot. I'm going to dump it all on you. I want you to now respond to all of this that I just went through. I went through a lot. So what is opening up for you? What do you see?
I gotta do more research.
Say more.
Yeah, I gotta do a little bit more research and just make sure that the zoning game is allowed here in the city.
Okay.
Because if it is allowed, then it opens up a lot of opens up the floodgates so I can start scouting.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. Anything else opening up? Any other thoughts crossing your head?
The example you did about the land, there is a lot of areas that I've seen here that have a ton of land.
Yeah.
We're talking about probably 3 acres plus.
Yeah.
And and you don't see a lot of properties in those. You just see a couple houses, and it's just like nothing. It's so that kind of opened my eyes to that's a possibility. I didn't know that you can do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are the things that I went over, right? And so I think subdivide is getting your attention. Also, like, the zoning attorney stuff with all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The zoning attorney may also be able to tell you about whether you can subdivide. Also, what the city requires in terms of minimum square footage for land. That's important too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So knowing that. Now, here, you ready for more? You ready for more? Oh, this is good.
Let's do it.
Here we go. So we're talking about like buying properties and doing this. No, 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 no. Let's play the paper game. Okay, what do I mean by that? Paper game. All right. So we got this plot of land, 5 acres with a house on it. Okay. And this person here would like to sell the 5 acres in the land or in the house or whatever. And they're like, hey, I would like to sell this property for 500K. Okay. On the surface, you're just like, oh, that's retail, whatever. I don't want that, right? But or at least you have an idea from your zoning attorney that the 5 acres can be subdivided. So you say, hey, I would like to buy your property and I will give you the $500,000. Here is $2,000 earnest money deposit, right? Earnest money deposit, just saying like, here's $2,000, hold on to it, good faith that, I will buy your property. But I need due diligence, okay? Day 1, day 180. Maybe this property's been sitting there for a while, I don't know, right? Hey, I need 180 days of due diligence time to do some work. That's where the attorney, then he goes and works to get the approval to cut that up, right? Maybe he has to meet with the township and the city and the zoning board and da 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 da. That's what all this is for, okay? That's what that 180 days is for. What does this cost you so far? $2,000 EMD and then the attorney fees. So whatever the attorney fees are.
Yeah.
So then you get the approval, and let's say the attorney costs you 20 grand. You get the approval, and now you're allowed to cut up the land into 3 different plots. So each one is like 1 1/4, right? 1 1.5. No, 1.5 would be 4.5. So yeah, like 1.5, 1.5, and 2, right? And so you got now your land's 1.5, 1.5, and 2. Okay, maybe you keep the house with the 2, and then you sell and sell, right? And then now you sell this for 200,000. You sell this for actually, sorry, 200,000. You sell this for 200,000, and then you sell this for 450. Gotta get out the way, right? So you're like, hey, got this beautiful house on 2 acres of land. We'll sell for 450. And then we got these 2 things for 200 and 200. So altogether, that's 850, right? Your 850 minus 20, and the 2 got applied to the 5. So 850 minus 20 is 830 minus 500. So you just made 330. You just made 330. Here's what's cool. Here's what's really, 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 really cool. You don't necessarily have to buy it. Okay. Here's what's cool. You can sell the plans to do this. You can tell a developer, hey, I got this thing. I got this 5 acre lot that I've gotten approval for the subdivision. The properties can go on 1.5 acres and they will sell these properties. Once you build them, will sell for 450 each, 450 here. And then this one is going to sell for 500. I don't know, something, right? You're telling a developer, hey, I got this thing where you're going to have 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 1.4. Okay. So all of this is $1.4 million of value. Okay. If he builds it all, right? $1.4 million of value. It may cost him, I don't know, call it 500,000 to do all of this work, right? It's 500,000 to do all of the work.
Okay.
And then you tell him like, hey, the deal costs you 500,000. You're going to have to do $500,000 in work. Oh, and I want a $100,000 fee. He's going to get 1.4 million worth of properties. He's going to be all in for 1.1. He might be okay with that. You took $100,000 fee, but you didn't have to buy any of this. And you didn't actually have to go through the process. All you're doing is you're wholesaling the deal to him after you've done. Yeah. Yeah. You're wholesaling the contract. He's actually buying the property for $500,000, but he's also buying the rights that you did with the attorney. Like he's buying the fact, the certainty, the work that you did.
Right. Right.
Right. So you're you're wholesaling this like wrapped in a bow deal. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so you made $100,000 fee without having to actually have the money to buy the thing.
Right. Right.
People do this all the time, by the way. They'll buy farmland.
Yeah.
They'll buy like 20 acres, 50 acres of farmland.
Right.
They'll go through the process of getting it zoned properly and all that kind of stuff. They will show a developer the 50 house like development, and they'll go, okay, here you go on a silver platter, all of the approvals you need, plus here are the plans for the actual development. Here you go. And you get to buy it. All of this you get to buy for 1.1 million. And at the end of the day, it's going to be worth 1.4 or 1.5 or 1.6 or whatever it is, right? In reality, it's going to be like, it's worth 50 million when you're done. It's going to cost you 30 million. There's a $20 million spread. All I asked for is $1 million in fee.
Right.
And they're like, oh yeah, here you go. And they can't pay you fast enough. I just did a small version, so it may not seem as attractive, or maybe $100,000 is attractive to you. I don't know, but you get the idea. Don't worry about any of the numbers. Don't get stuck on the numbers. I made all this up. None of this makes any sense, but you get the concept, the theory.
Yeah. Wow. It just sounds easy.
Well, I mean, remember, so before this call, what we said was everything is a lot of work, right? Let's say everything, no matter what you do, whether you're doing your W-2 job, you're starting a new business, or you're becoming a real estate investor, or you're subdividing land, or you're doing wholesaling, or you're doing fix and flips, or anything that you're doing. It's all a lot of work. So there's no need to label a new idea. Oh, wow, that's going to be a lot of work. I know you said this sounds simple, right? But what I'm trying to get the listeners, whoever's watching this, to understand is everything is a lot of work, because they may not agree with you. They might go, oh my God, that sounds like a lot of work, right? But everything is a lot of work. And the fact that everything is a lot of work, we no longer need to label it a lot of work because it's already assumed.
Very true.
So
very true.
This is just work.
Yes.
Your job is just work. Being a parent is work. Everything is work. A lot of work. Like the label, a lot. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's just what it is, right? And so you get to do this in your area, because if properties, here's what's cool. If your properties are in fact this much money, there's enough meat on the bone for a developer to build that kind of house. And instead of building a 2-1, they're going to build a 3-1, a 3-2, a 3-3. They're going to build a 3-4, right? They're going to build something that's worth it. If 2-1s are going from 475 to 600, they'll build a 3-4 3-bed, 4-bath, and sell it for 800. And it's only going to cost a little bit more money.
Right.
So they're going to maximize whatever they can. And their build costs might be 200,000. So if their build cost is 200,000 and they can get these kind of numbers, they'll do it. If you told me you lived in an area where the average cost of properties, if this was 100,000 to 200,000, builders aren't building there. The
Right.
cost of building is more than the value of the home. That's why different cities just like get neglected forever. Because it's kind of like a negative domino effect. It's like the city loses this big employer, people move out, property values drop, and then people continue to move, and then properties continue to drop, and then they get dilapidated, they get knocked down, you got empty land. And then because there's all these vacancies all over, prices continue to drop, and no developer wants to come in and buy the land and build, because when they build, it's not even worth it.
Right.
You are not experiencing that. Where you live is valuable.
Yes.
So cool, right? It's just different than what you thought. You were like, oh, I'm going to buy a property and rent it out.
Yep.
May not work. May not
Right.
work.
Right.
But what's better is all of this other stuff that can work. All of like this. So because you live in such a affluent neighborhood where property values are so high, you could actually make a lot more money quicker.
Right. Right.
Versus collecting $600 a month. You're doing deals where you're like flipping or refinancing, or you're selling to a developer and getting a fee or whatever. Like $100,000 fee, if you were collecting $600 a month, right? Let's see. So you got $100,000 divided by $600 a month. That's 166 months. Divide that by 12. We're talking 13 years. 13.8 years to collect your fee or in rent. Just do a bunch of these.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you make at your job, and it doesn't matter. But if you make this fee, for a lot of people, that's their whole salary.
Right.
If you make 2 of these fees, right? If you make 2 of these fees, that's double your salary. Could you leave your job? I would. So that I could pursue, I could pursue doing more of these.
Correct. Yes.
A lot of people are like, oh my God, isn't that risky? You know what's risky? Your daughter growing up, not seeing her dad as often. They say like, by the time your kid's 18, 90% of the time you're going to spend with your kid, your child, whatever, is gone. All that's left is 10%, because they're going to be off to school. Then they're going to get a job somewhere. They're going to move to another city. They're going to live on their own. They're going to get married. You're only going to see them like when they're 30 and you're 70, you might only see them once every 2 weeks, once a month, right? And so that's why 90% of the time that you were going to spend with them is already done by the time they're 18. There's only 10% left. Crazy when you put it that way. You're like, my kid.
Yep.
How old is your kid?
5.
All right. You're good. You're good. Figure this
I
out.
know.
Figure this out. So the next 13 years, like, you really milk it for all it's worth.
Right.
90% is during that time.
Yeah. And that's my why. She's the reason why I want to get into this and, have the freedom to spend more time with her and my wife.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. So now what you got to do is be like a little bit of a detective. Okay. You want to look at the properties in your area, drive around, be more like aware. Go, oh, I never noticed that little house that's on the same plot as that bigger house. Huh, is that an ADU? I never noticed that house is 2 stories and all the other ones are 1 story. Huh, right? Start to notice these things. That one has a bigger backyard than most properties. Huh, right?
Yeah.
All of these properties have a yard of this certain size. I wonder if the city requires the yard to be a certain size, a certain square footage. And I wonder what that square footage is. Now, that's with your eyes. Go find attorneys in your neighborhood and see what's going on with them. Go join your local real estate investing club. Here's what's really cool. If you're like, oh, there isn't one, create it. and then you become the president of the local real estate investing club. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Why? Because deals come your way, money comes your way. Like if you actually wanted to buy this stuff and do the deals and all, you're going to need money. Where's the money come from? Private investors. Why do private investors want to invest with you? Because they feel like you know what you're doing. And why do they feel like you know what you're doing? Because you're the president of the real estate investing club. See how all the dots just connected right there? Right.
Yeah.
So, and then the people who are newer than you, who would love to be a real estate investor as well, they might come across a deal. They might say like, hey, my grandma who lives in a $500,000 house is looking to sell her property, right? Now, they're not going to say, oh, my grandma lives in a $500,000 house. They're going to say, my grandma lives in a house and she's looking to sell it, right? She wants to downsize. She wants to move in with me. Or she wants to go to a nursing home, whatever. You know it's worth $500,000, but the conversation you have with grandma is like, hey, would you like $300,000 in your pocket now? And she's like, yeah, there you go, right? And so, you found equity. You are given a gift of equity from grandma, because from grandma's point of view, you buying it means she doesn't have to hire a contractor to fix up the property. She doesn't have to deal with 100 people walking through her property, and she doesn't have to pay a real estate agent a commission. Grandma goes, you know what, Oscar? You make things easy for me, and you remind me of my grandkid. Here you go, $300,000. Ta-da! It's a wonderful thing. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Now, you just got grandma's property under contract for $300,000, and you go, Hone, I actually don't have the money. Oh, guess what? There are a lot of people who will gladly pay $450 for that property. You just made $150,000, so you wholesale it to them. What? Oh my God, I forgot about that one, right? There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
Dude, that happens all the time. I got a phone call. I remember, right? I got a phone call from a friend. Actually, it was a text message. He was like, yo, I got this property under contract. I was working my job and I overheard these two ladies talking about wanting to sell the property. I went up to them. I said, I buy properties. They said, really? And then we got into the whole thing. And then he got it under contract. I said, cool. I said, have this conversation with them. The property was a cheap property, super dirt cheap property. He got it under contract for $40,000. I said, okay, I need you to go back to them and negotiate it. I need you to say these words exactly. So I typed out a script for him. He said these words exactly. He got the property dropped to $30,000, a 25% haircut. I said, okay, now hold that thought. I sent the text message out to somebody else and I said, hey, I got a property in the area that you like to invest in. It's $40,000. He said, okay, done, right? Made $10,000 spread just from sending those two text messages. He sent me the text message and then I sent one out. Why did he send it to me? President of the real estate club, right? I'm the guy that people go to when they don't know what to do. When they're stuck, they call me, they text me, they contact me. Hey, I got this deal. I'm stuck. Then I make it happen. And then I just take a little piece for my services. And all it was a little text message. Text here, text there, set it up. Done. You get to be that guy. But unlike me, you're dealing with properties that are $600,000, whereas this one was $40,000.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Now, obviously, I deal with bigger properties as well, but I'll take them in whatever shape and size because I'm not paying because I'm not getting a percentage of the property value. I am making the spread. It could be a $10,000 property, but if I sell it for $70,000, I made $60,000. You see, it doesn't matter that it's small. The spread is what matters.
Right. Yeah.
So you might be dealing with much more expensive properties, but if your spreads are smaller, then, it's like, whatever, it's all relative. So your job is to create these large spreads and just make your money. Make your money. You want to leave your job? Great. You want to spend more time with your 5-year-old? Great. You get to by focusing on these big fees in your area. And then eventually, once you make enough fees, and let's say you're sitting on $1.1 million in your bank and you want to buy a couple of these properties just to hang on to, great. Or you make all these big fees in your neighborhood and then you go and you invest your money in a syndication in a different part of town with a different operator other than you, where you can get the passive income and do no work. You put your money in their deal, you get the cash flow, you get the tax benefits, you get all that kind of stuff, but you don't do any work. And it cash flows because it's in an area that actually cash flows. Your area
Right.
does not. Other
Right.
areas do. You don't have to invest where you live. You can invest anywhere in the world. So invest where you cash flow, and you do these deals, these transactional deals where you live. All right. I dumped a lot. Again, back to you. What's your brain doing?
That I should get into wholesaling in my area.
Sure.
It's no, yeah. It's like I was saying before, there's definitely more potential. Like right now, I believe it's in wholesaling. In wholesaling here in this area, there's there are older properties here in this city that I believe it's an older population. And like you said, grandma can sell you the property for a fraction of what it's worth.
That's the other thing, right? That's the beauty of where you are. It's a large
Yeah.
population, an older population, and high value. You have a window that is closing because these older people are going to be moving out, dying, whatever, right? So
Yeah.
this like ability to offer less to these people who've lived in the house for the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years is going away
Yeah.
because eventually they're all going to
Yep.
be gone. So you got to get on the ball and get out there.
Yep.
Or he goes like, damn, I should have acted.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have been so scared. The
Right.
window's there.
Right. Yeah, it's there. It's there. And and I just got to go out there and kind of, like you said, put my investigator glasses on.
Yes. Yes. Also try to find a local attorney who handles real estate and zoning.
Yeah.
Talk to them. And maybe you
Okay.
go like, hey, can I pay for an hour of your time? Right? It doesn't have to be for free, but a lot of them actually will give you some time for free, chat with you over Zoom or whatever, because
Yeah.
they want your business in the future. But you need to vet them to make sure they're a good fit. And so you're going to have a conversation with them. It's kind of like an interview, right? And so
Right.
they'll have that call with you for free. If you want to pay them, great. I'm sure they won't mind the payment, but whatever.
Right.
And if they charge you $250 an hour, $350 an hour, whatever, it's like, okay, it's your research for the bigger picture.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oftentimes you can just call them and like, hey, I'm looking for a real estate attorney who specializes in zoning. Or do you do zoning? And then they'll either say yes or no. And if they say yes, it's like, do you have time to get on a call with me? I would love to see if we could work together. And they go, okay, cool. Right. And so there you go.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of city officials. Now you definitely can talk to them for free. You go to the zoning board, you go to like your city hall or whoever handles it. And just like talk to the people who work there, who, they're sitting behind a desk. And it's like, can I help you? It's like, yeah, I wanted to hear about this and that. You might get a person who's been at that job for the last 30 years and they will tell you everything about anything.
Right. Yeah.
You just got to get out there.
Yep. Got to get out there.
Yeah. But all right. What do you think about your plan?
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited now. I want I'm going to start digging and I'm going to start looking around.
How are you feeling before this call and how are you feeling now? What's the difference?
A little nervous to see what I was going to get myself into. Wasn't exactly sure 100% what I wanted to go for. Wholesale, fix and flip.
Buy and hold, lending, this, that, right.
Yep. But I think wholesale's what's on top of that list right now.
Cool. Awesome.
And so kind of like I said, I'm opening my mind and want to see what's out there.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that you joined the program. And for anybody else who's interested, right? Truth about REI, truth about real estate investing, truthaboutrei.com. It's the program. That's what this is right here. So yeah, I'm real interested to see what you do moving forward. Keep us in the loop, post it in the community tab in the thing. And yeah, tell us about like, oh, I went out and I met with the zoning attorney. I went out and I met with the city. I went out and I met with the zoning board. I went out and I met with grandma. I met with
There you
5
go.
grandmas. Like, then it gets really exciting. Then it
Yeah,
gets really exciting. So yeah,
yeah,
keep us in the loop of all that.
most definitely. Yeah.
All right. All right. Until the next video. Peace.